Whoa! All right, welcome everybody. Another episode of the No One Sees podcast. We are here with two goats. We have special guest Dave Hurt, aka known as the Sign Guy. Instagram. We have a special guest host today, too, Snoop Strength, as you know from Beauty Games. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
It'll be a good one today. So Dave flew out, came in last night, but he's someone that we really wanted to get on, and we have a lot of stuff in common. You're someone that we've all kind of started to be attracted to on social media from the stuff you put out.
Attracted to
You had a big kind of, I wouldn't say coming out during COVID, but we have a ton of good stuff that we want to dive into. But I guess the relationship, was sprung through Jess. You and Jess met each other.
Yep.
Through social media?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, I'm affiliated with First Form in several capacities. One of which is a recruiter for the sales rep program, and so I'm always looking for people that would represent the brand well. And so I reached out to her, and obviously she's very much
taken by No Wendy Sleeves.
My girl.
But then we just kind of kept talking about fitness and all kinds of stuff, and kind of here we are. But that's how I met her, and then met you guys.
Yeah, it was. I remember when she first reached out. We've been talking about getting some people on, and she was like, I know Dave, and I was like, and then she's like, the guy holding up the sign. So she said that, I was like, okay, I know that. I knew exactly what she was talking about, and I was interested to see kind of how that came about. I think one of the interesting things about this profession and social media, everyone says social media sucks nowadays, right? But look at the shit that it's doing even right now.
Yeah. I think social media in general, a lot of people give it a negative connotation. They say that it's changed us and it's done all these bad things, but I think it's more so exposed us more as to like who we are. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it can be if you're a bad person. But yeah, that was kind of how it all like happened for me. Was I started doing those signposts, and then it kind of blew up from there.
So as anybody that's watching this video clearly sees that you are deeply and heavily involved into the fitness and strength training world, and that's obviously your passion. I want to give them a little bit of a background before we go into some of the topics about you, born and raised, kind of your path and journey to where you're at now, like you just mentioned with the first one.
Yeah, so born and raised in eastern North Carolina. Had a pretty shitty upbringing. Can we curse on this?
All the time.
Cool.
If we can't, then I can fuck it up.
Well, yeah, that's true. I've heard there's potty mouth. Yeah, so really shitty childhood. Like, parents were both drug addicts, kind of had to fend for myself, all that stuff. And went to school for biochemistry. That's what I got my degree in, grad school for physiology. So I was always kind of, involved heavily in all of that, and trained myself. But then I ended up going into like a corporate career for several years, and built a business outside of that I went on to sell in the hospitality industry. And now I'm just kind of doing what I enjoy, and that's coaching people on nutrition and some training online and holding up signs.
I love that. When we were talking about it out there, you were talking about some of the stuff that you would put up and the ones that would, some of the, I guess the negative stuff you get from it. Did you know when you first made the first sign that it was going to blow up like this?
Hell no. So what happened is, obviously this all transpired during coronavirus, the lockdown and all that stuff. So I made a video where I was talking about, so I got a lot of questions from people asking me why I was posting training videos without a mask on. So I made a video talking about the science underlying why a cloth mask can be a liability in the gym setting. You're touching it, you're moving it all around. It's basically, if you are a carrier of the virus, it's a sponge that's soaked with virus. You touch it, you touch equipment, it just spreads it all over the fucking place. So that's why I chose not to wear a mask in my videos. And so I made a video talking about that. I talked about specific studies where they've looked at cloth masks being a liability.
People probably don't give you the time of day at first too, because you probably get the meathead. Right? This
just
knows to lift things up and put things down.
Yeah, and I dealt with that like all through grad school and everything. It was just, we'll probably go into that as we talk more about masculinity. But yeah, so I made this video, and I thought it was fairly innocuous. I was talking about the underlying science as to why you wouldn't wear a mask in the gym setting. And I got so much blowback from it. I lost clients, people were blocking me, unfriending me, calling me like all kinds of names. And I was always aware that there was a cancel culture and all this, crazy bullshit going on, but I had never experienced it because I always kind of stayed neutral politically and all of that, just like post my fitness content, do my thing. But at that point, I was just kind of like, what is going on here? Like, this is insane. Like, people that I had trained for free for years were now calling me an asshole and a piece of shit and all, literally because I talked about why I wouldn't wear a mask in the gym. I wasn't, it was nothing crazy.
Not going after anyone personally.
No, and so that's when I made my first signpost, just kind of out of the blue. It was, we can disagree and still be friends. And that was really in response to all the people that were blocking me and hated me and all this stuff. And I didn't think it was, I had no clue what was going to happen. So I posted it, and I want to say like 2 days later, it had been shared like 1,000 times on Facebook. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I've never had anything like that. And then like 2 days after that, 100,000 times. And then like it got to like 1 million shares. And then it just like blew up from there. And I think it was because it resonated with a lot of people, who were dealing with this same bullshit. Like, we can disagree and still be friends. It's cool. If you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, we can still be friends. I'm not saying you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
But, and so that's where it all kind of started. And then I was like, well, if that resonated with people, anytime I get an idea or I feel like I want to make a statement, I'll just do a signpost. And then it just kind of kept going from there.
That's pretty wild, too, if you think about it. Something as simple as that, right? You're doing something, you're not going at anyone's character. You're not personally attacking anyone, nothing. People took that personally. People took you training not to mask personally. Goes into so much of the issues that we talk about with society, a lot of the masculinity stuff that we're going to get into. It's like everything is an attack on someone personally. Yep. They don't know you, and the people that I guess that you trained and decided to leave you, they've known you for however many years, and that simple thing is what's going to cancel it. That's what I always talk about with politics.
Like people whose lives you've changed, like people who had been through weight loss journeys, and I owe you everything, I have all the feedback and stuff, and then just like, you're a piece of shit, fuck you, block, And it was just, I was so caught off guard by it, just like so blown away. Because I have my own opinions and beliefs and all that, but if you have the opposite opinions and beliefs, I'll still be your fucking friend.
Well,
like,
that's
we
what
can
they're
still
saying.
get a beer together.
They're saying if you disagree with them,
yeah,
they don't want to be involved with you in their life.
Exactly. And so that's what started it all. And the biggest thing I was getting from those people was, how dare you? You have a platform, people look at what you're saying, you're telling them not to wear a mask. And in my video, I was even saying, I'm not telling you should do this, do your own research, but I feel like I owe you guys an explanation as to why I'm not.
And I think that with all of this social media and this platform thing, how we're going to divulge into cancel culture and masculinity and all this stuff, but people just saying, you have this platform. Yeah, I have this platform. What I'm doing with my platform is not for you to decide for me.
Right.
So this whole freedom of speech and cancel culture to me is straight up people being like, you personally should not have freedom of speech because what you're saying is against what I want to say. So this whole cancel culture and you have a platform, you should be smarter with what you say. Fuck the fuck off. It's my fucking platform.
It's your platform.
We all have a platform, and just because more people are interested in what I have to say doesn't mean that I have this responsibility to not be myself.
Right.
They follow me because I'm myself.
We haven't even started yet, and I'm getting so fucking hyped up.
So that's kind of where, like, I never intended on getting political or making, like, those sorts of statements because I always thought, hey, I'm a coach, like, I don't want to alienate one side, and, so I'll stay neutral. But at that point, it was kind of like, fuck it, they've already burned the votes for me. So
we had just talked about that outside, actually, on the floor, with being a coach. Clientele, and they say business and money, it doesn't know a side, right?
Right. This famous Jordan quote, like, Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have to make a conscious decision to yourself, like, I'm going to commit to this now, and now my views are out, and is that something you had to sit down?
Yeah, I went through that thought process, and a lot of that, we talked about Andy Frisella, and he's obviously played a big part in my life being involved with the company, but what he says is basically you can't appeal to 100% of people. You just can't, right? So why not go all in on who you are and appeal to half the people and have 50% of the population be absolutely committed to what you're saying and be raving fans, in air quotes. And so that's kind of the mentality I took. I was like, you know what, fuck it. If somebody is going to say that I don't deserve to have an opinion, I don't want to coach them anyway, right? So I just started saying what I think, and it's been amazing. Like my following has grown, the support has grown, and it's just been from obviously one side who shares
your
the same
followers
beliefs.
adore you, probably.
Right, and they're better followers. Yeah.
More, and that's probably something really cool. So someone like me and Jess, we probably followed Andy Frisella for years, right? So you work with him.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get the support for someone like that, that's higher up with them in the company that you work for. A lot of people, bosses, they may fire them, they may, you might get in a little bit of trouble, some kickback. To have the support from someone that you look up to and you work with, does that help a lot with your decision?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And so I've been part of the program, or excuse me, the company in different capacities, and like fairly recently, I accepted a role with headquarters as a recruiter. And I told them at that point, because I had a podcast at that time, I was like, look, I do this podcast. I'm very raw with my opinions, and I talk about these topics. I want you to know that because I don't want anything to like surprise you later. And they were like, dude, we fucking love it. We've watched it, And so, yeah, I mean, that's everything to have that support, because like I was telling you before, that podcast we no longer do because my co-host got fired from his job because of the stuff we were talking about. And it wasn't anything super controversial. It was just, hey, we think this rioting and looting is fucking bad. We should support our police. These crazy ideas like that. And he got fired for it. So it's and now we can't do it anymore because he's got to find a job.
That's the epitome that really exemplifies like what's going on right now.
It really
especially from side to side looking at that. But I think you having a good head, you making the conscious decision because you have a daughter, you have a wife. It's something that...
And that was a conversation, not to cut you off, but that was a conversation I had to have with her because she has a job. And I was like, look, I want to do this, but I don't want you to get fired because of this. And she gave me the green light to do it, and it still could happen. Her boss could come to her one day and say, hey, we've seen some of the stuff your husband posts, and we don't like it.
And the crazy part about that is nothing you post is demeaning.
No. I always try to strike that balance between like, you don't really know for sure what side I'm on, and it's a neutral statement, but it has like that subconscious, like, what I'm talking about? Like, we can disagree and still be friends. Very neutral statement, but it pissed off the left in a huge way. And, some of the other ones about personal responsibility and stuff like that, these shouldn't be controversial topics, but they are because espousing personal responsibility as a virtue these days is viewed as being something on one side of the political spectrum, and it shouldn't be.
And you talk a lot about masculinity, but a lot of your signs are that, and that's really the big topic we're going to get into.
Yeah, we haven't even...
You have a daughter, right? So you're raising a young woman,
yeah,
which is awesome. I think that's another reason why we kind of hit it off. Is that, I just had a daughter too, so I look at some of the stuff you do, and I honestly try to want to do that stuff with my daughter. Did that weigh into the decision to really do this? Do you get a lot of kickback from people like attacking you personally?
Yeah. I get people who it's backseat parenting bullshit. Telling me I shouldn't raise my daughter this way or that way, or that the traditional male role is toxic and all this bullshit. And I want her to grow up in a world where there are still real men, and I want to show her what a real man is, because one day she's going to have to decide who that man is in her life. And I want her to have a good standard. I want her to have a high standard, and that's what it's about for me. And having a daughter, dude, it's absolutely played into that. And not that I was suppressing who I was, but now I'm like, it's a mission, you know? And I look at guys like Sean Whalen, Ian Smith, who you've had on before, you know, all these guys who sort of share that same objective with like, let's continue to push the idea of men being masculine, you know, and it shouldn't be this crazy topic, right? It shouldn't be this controversial thing, but it is these days.
For some reason. And with that, drum roll, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Snoop, I know Snoop is overly prepared for this.
He's got a notebook.
I do. So the whole point of me sitting over here, normally I'm used to talking so much on beauty gains, but I wanted to be able to come on here with you guys as well, just so that it wasn't two masculine dudes talking about being masculine. So I feel like me being on here, even though you could probably see me and see that I'm not the most feminine female to have on, so it's almost just like a shit ton of masculinity talking about masculinity, and it seems very biased, but we're not here to be very biased as to pushing down people's throats like, you have to be this man type of man. And getting into the topic of toxic masculinity, it sucks that it's even a fucking topic.
Well, I was going to say, is it wrong that when she just said she's sitting here with two masculine dudes, I took that as a compliment?
I mean, I liked it.
You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
hell yeah on that.
But to your point, it's not about, and we do need to make this clear, it's not about saying all men should be this way.
Right.
It's about saying, if you are that way, it's fucking okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, all of the left's agenda that they, and I will call out the left, you know, they push like acceptance, be yourself, embrace your true self, all this, unless you're a masculine man, or a black conservative, or a gay conservative, you know, unless you're all these things that go against what they view the world as being ideal, right? And all we're saying is, no, let's embrace all those types as well. Like, don't tell a masculine man he needs to suppress that because it makes him a bad person.
Yeah, and with toxic masculinity and all this shit, I wanted to come into it having different types of examples and why what everything that we're about to talk about and just divulge into isn't bullshit. Like, a lot of people forget that masculinity comes from you as a male. It comes from you having fucking testosterone flowing through your fucking body.
Yeah, so it's an actual biologically driven thing.
Right, so for people to sit there and be like, oh, like you're ignorant, or oh, you're so simple-minded about it, about there's only one way to be a man. There isn't one way to be a man, but at the end of the day, there is testosterone. There is a difference of men and women, or being feminine or masculine, or being more masculine than somebody else. You have chemicals, you have hormones in your body that primally set you to a type of way.
Well, and I'm not to get too far into that, but that's something very interesting that you said. That I feel like the gender thing is a lot different than masculinity. However, you are so true and accurate when you say that there's different hormones in your body. There's a reason why women's basketballs are smaller than men's. There's a reason why there's difference in the tee boxes in golf, right? There's a reason why the state champion in Connecticut was someone who identified originally as a male, switched to a female, won every race.
There's a reason why Fallon Fox was destroying every real female that she fought.
And that's science, it's biology. And we talk about people taking testosterone. It's okay for women to take testosterone to change. I'll let you kind of get into that one.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. You know, Jess hits on an accurate point. Like, how masculine you are as a man ultimately is driven by hormones, which are chemicals. It's a natural biological thing. And these days, we have this kind of odd paradigm of thought where if you're a man and you want to be more masculine, which, i.e., you take exogenous testosterone, hormone replacement therapy, or whatever you want to call it, that's negatively stigmatized. Or if you have normal test levels and you just want to be a juggernaut, you know, that's viewed upon as a bad thing. Whereas if you're a woman, say if you're Jess, and she decides one day, I've actually always felt like I'm a man. I identify as a man.
These thoughts go through my head daily.
Well, you know, like any female
Yeah.
who decides that they're identifying now as a man, it's perfectly acceptable in society for them to inject exogenous hormones, testosterone specifically, to become something that they biologically are not originally, right? In fact, it's encouraged. They're applauded. You're so brave, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas it's negative if I want to just be even more of what I naturally am. And so that's kind of a weird thing that's happening these days. And it's like, I think it stems from this whole idea of toxic masculinity. It's like, no, you've got enough masculinity. You don't need more of it. But Annabelle over here wants to be Andy, and that's okay. You know, so it's just, it's fucked up.
What is, you see, I'm sure you've had to, what do you think people mean by the definition-wise of toxic masculinity? What the hell is fucking toxic about masculinity?
So it's basically, and I've gotten a lot of, you know, I held a sign that said masculinity is not toxic. I opened myself up for all kinds.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That was it, right?
Yeah, that one was fun. And the funny thing was, it was a lot of like 17-year-old girls and shit who were, you know, talking about how masculinity is toxic, and it's like, you probably just need a real man in your life. But it's this idea that competitiveness and dominance and is ultimately bullying and negative, and it causes men to be you know, emotionless and just like assholes and douchebags, and, you know, all the negative connotations that come with a dominant guy. Those are toxic masculine traits. And, you know, I think that, yeah, there are some things that come along with being masculine that aren't as positive, right? But there are also some things that come along with being feminine that aren't as positive. And humans aren't perfect, right? And I think just categorizing masculinity in general as this toxic thing is wrong, you know, because I think a true masculine man is actually emotionally vulnerable and comfortable enough with his emotions to talk about it, you know?
It's me.
Yeah, and I think that it's just this, this stereotype of what a masculine man is. And that's not, in my opinion, a true, like, provider, protector, you know.
I feel like people probably assume, right? So you're a big dude with beard, tats, right? They probably think that you go home because you're so masculine and you shake your daughter saying, hello, how was your day? Good night,
Yeah.
right? And that's it, because you have no emotions. You don't care about anything else besides your bravado and what you're doing.
Right.
It's the complete opposite, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you are at the point where you're so comfortable with your masculinity. You're a protector. You want to take care of people. That allows you and gives you the freedom to be as emotional as you want to be public.
Yeah.
Who cares?
There are guys who I think a key difference, and you're absolutely right. We both have daughters. You know that, like, you just melt for your daughter, right? Like, you're not this emotionless asshole. But I think that there are guys, absolutely, there's a subset of males who are like trying to project as masculine. And those are the guys who are the fucking douchebags, you know, the assholes. They walk around with a puffed out chest. But ultimately, that doesn't stem from being truly masculine or strong. That stems from being insecure. And that's a facade they try to put on. And I think that facade is what has resulted in this unfair stereotype of a really masculine man.
So true. I mean, I cried on the Beauty Games podcast.
Yeah, as soon as I
Dude,
mentioned
I
Ash.
cry when I watch Netflix cartoons with my daughter.
But I think that, like, when we talk about you, as you were just talking, like, 3 different thought processes went through my head. So let's try and keep me on track, but let's get it going.
Go for it.
When you talk about being a protector and a provider, we had just gotten off the topic of how men, the reason why you're a man is you have testosterone. That's your sex hormone. It's the reason why your balls, your penis, all that shit, your dick, your penis. I tried to be correct. I almost said dick.
Phallic projectile.
Oh, that sounded so uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable.
Lord, it's just a
I'm
penis.
trying to say it.
You're
Seems like your penis.
But it's fucking fucking why you're a guy. It's why you have your organ, everything like that. But with testosterone comes with extra protein synthesis. See, now I can't speak. Protein synthesis, making your muscles, making your bones bigger.
Denser,
You're created that way for a reason. You were created to physically protect. So back in the day, and that's where everybody's like, well, we're not cavemen anymore. Well, we're not this anymore. Right, but you as a human being, as a living organism, we're created for a fucking reason. Just because we have technology and buildings and guns and weapons now, testosterone levels in different demographics might be diminishing because you don't need to physically beat the fuck out of a woolly mammoth anymore.
So much.
She's fired up.
I know, I love it.
I'm kind of scared.
But I'm more hyped up just because I said the word penis
She's been waiting on that one for a while.
Saying penis was super fucking weird.
I did. When you talk about that, we are naturally born protectors. It is what it is. We don't. You're not forcing yourself. You don't wake up every day and say, "All right, I don't want to do this."
Time to go be masculine.
Exactly. it's who you are.
You like pull on your fucking muscle
It's like, all right,
sleeves.
let me stuff my crotch area. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just who you are. It's what you were genetically created to do. And there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. But it also gives you the opportunity to feel comfortable if there's times where you need to lean on your spouse. Just because you want to protect and provide for them, there's going to be times you need them too. And I think that all goes into the toxic piece of it. You know,
But I think that's also what makes men who aren't as quote-unquote masculine as other men feel bad, and that's why they want you guys to suppress it more, is because when they look at you, they're like, oh, that's what a man is supposed to look like. I don't look like that, but I'm still a provider, I'm still a protector, so why do they get the credit for it when I can still do this? It's all like an insecurity thing as to if you guys choose to continue to become more and more masculine, i.e. just by weightlifting,
Just
being
ourselves.
keep doing what you want to do in staying masculine and in staying in your mind what you find to be a man. Everybody needs to stop looking at other people and being like, well, I don't want to do that, so they shouldn't do it, so I don't feel bad about myself. Why should somebody else suppress who they are in order for you to feel better about yourself? So now you are taking somebody else's life and saying, I want to feel better about myself, so can you stop that? Because I don't want to change, but I need you to change so I don't feel bad. It doesn't fucking make any sense.
Right.
And we were talking yesterday about it, is that because you are more ideal, you should be the one, because you're not a victim.
Right.
You're masculine, you're not a victim.
Power dynamic.
Correct. The power dynamic of you're masculine, so you're not the victim. Other people are looked at less than you because of it, so you need to change so that they get a level playing field.
Yeah, and I've experienced this firsthand. You know, I've had people when I talk about. So, I talked specifically about young men who have reached out to me on numerous occasions, multiple guys saying, "Dude, I don't feel, I'm pressured not to be masculine, right? I feel like I can't be my true self." And so I talked about that in a post. And I got comments of shit like, "Oh, boo-hoo, poor you, masculine, white, muscular man, poor me." You know, so that's exactly what you're talking about, is it's seen as a power dynamic where you're not a victim, you're not vulnerable, so therefore they can talk shit about you. And we talked about this in the context of fit shaming as well. Like, it's perfectly acceptable in a lot of people's eyes to say, "Oh, that's too much muscle," or, you know, that's gross, that's too many
about
veins.
your body, it's narcissistic.
Exactly, it's narcissistic. Like, I talked about this on my social media like maybe a year ago. This actually happened to me. I was in a Starbucks, I walked past this table of two probably mid-40s ladies. I live in the South, you know, so they got the Southern accent. Yeah, well, hey, you guys can move. They got the Southern accents and everything, so I walk by and I hear one of them, and they're obese, very obese. Ew, that's too much, you know? And I'm like, the fuck? Like, and I actually went and talked to them. I said, "Hey, I just want you to know I heard what you said. And I would never, ever in my life say anything like that about you being obese, because you are. And I really don't appreciate you saying that. And she, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know you heard me. But it's perfectly acceptable because you're not seen as a victim, as a masculine alpha male, whatever you want to call it, for people to talk shit about you like that.
Because you don't feel it because you're emotionless.
Right. And look, hey, it didn't really bother me that much. I just felt like I needed to say something to them. So to an extent, I guess it's kind of correct. Like, yeah, because of who I am, because I am that type of man, I don't let that shit get to me. But still, you can't have a double standard like that in society.
I've never thought about it like that. I've never thought about, because you're right. People don't feel bad commenting on someone's Instagram who's fit. People don't get
or
shit.
she's so skinny, she needs a sandwich. It's
Yeah.
the same bullshit.
No one cares, right? It's not a big deal. Whereas if you went on to someone who was obese and you said something,
You'd be fat shaming.
You get canceled.
You're fat shaming.
yeah, you'd be canceled, right? That's such a good way to look at it, but it's a choice, right? And you choose to do that. That doesn't make you any more a worse person. It doesn't make you a violent person. It doesn't make you narcissistic, as you obviously using fitness as a general example, but it's just taking care of your body.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You talk about a choice, because that was actually some feedback I got when I talked about that. Someone said, well, you choose to look that way. You work out and you choose to look that way. I'm like, you think she fucking didn't choose to put that sandwich in her mouth? Like, give me a fucking break. Let's use the same fucking standard here.
Yeah.
How was it when you first made, so you said you lost some clients.
Mm-hmm.
When you did this and you made your commitment to doing this, again, more specifically through the masculinity topic, was there any people that you've been friends with for like a while that canceled you?
Oh yeah,
like
that's
for like close friends.
And I'm still like finding. I'll be like, oh shit, they don't follow me anymore. Like, we went to high school together, we were friends in college, and I'm like, fuck, man. And you know, it's kind of one of those things where like it doesn't bother me anymore because I've made new friends, and you know, I have like-minded friends. But look, I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't want to be in an echo chamber either. I do value other opinions, and so when these people unfollow me, I think about it. I'm like, fuck, why was that? And then, you know, some of it is because I'll post, you know, something that's maybe pro-Trump or something like that, and that's fine, whatever. If you're not mature enough to accept other political opinions, then don't follow me, because you probably will get offended by my
Well,
content.
there's both types, every types of people on both sides, but you know, some are more equated with the other, right? But there's very masculine men who are left. There's very masculine men that are right. There's trans that are right and left. There's, you know.
I have a good friend who is almost a pro-strong man, and he's very far left.
And you guys were good buddies, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, dude, I'm friends with, I don't care what your values are. I'll be friends with you.
The thing is that drives me nuts about people, I will never sit here and kind of argue about politics. I'm not, like, I have what I believe in, I have who I vote for, I have, again, and we spoke about it on Beauty Gains when we talked about social media at the end, and being yourself and being able to be, and I choose not to put any of my opinions out there because I physically and mentally cannot handle that back and forth. I put one
It's exhausting.
neutral statement out the other day. It was like, no matter who wins the election,
I saw that.
your life problems are your fault. And somebody who commented on it, I don't
They
know
talked about how privileged you've been.
how privileged I've been.
I saw that.
This motherfucker lived a street over from me in a fucking mansion. So why are you gonna sit there and tell me like, oh, I'm actually super happy for you that you have the privilege not to be affected by this election. Of course I'm gonna be affected by the fucking election. But you wanna know what? I'm gonna fucking adapt and live my fucking life.
Is like, I don't put all my eggs in this basket. I'm my own person. I'm
Right.
gonna work hard and be successful no matter
You're
what.
still gonna wake up, put your head down, and go to work the next day.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Who is much like that. I'm a little bit more animated with politics than he is, and he off camera obviously. We don't get into politics too much out on social media. He's much more laid back, and he said, I don't put too much time and effort into it because I know no matter what,
You're not gonna change someone's mind.
I'm just gonna go to work the next day and do what I have to do to survive. So I can't waste my energy doing that.
No,
It was a
not at all.
really good way to kind of look at it. There's a lot of people like that, and for the majority of people this is just the most polarizing one of all time.
Well, I was gonna say, I agree with that to an extent. I think this particular election, I mean, we are talking about the Second Amendment. I mean, there are a lot of actual changes that can fundamentally alter who we are as a country during this election. Although I think we don't need to get into political
I
discussion.
know we're gonna change full
Yeah,
topic.
Anyway, yeah. I
But
agree.
with that, this one, there's two different types. There's your kind of middle people, right? Who we all get along with because it's more based off political
Right. That's what
policies.
I used to try to be.
There's political policies where now you're seeing someone who's far left, far right. It's less, it shows more about who you are as a person because of the things that you're doing and attacking people on social media and those type of
But
things.
the issue, even with, sorry to cut you off, but even take away the election, look about how you were talking about before with you posted as to why you didn't want to be with a mask and people yelled at you or people said this and this. So many people need to feel relevant nowadays and they all need to be a victim even though they're not a victim. We have such a, besides a cancel culture, this fucking victimized culture that ties into all of this. People, the masculinity thing, the mask thing, everything. Everybody needs to feel relevant because they're so fucking lost right now. And I think we spoke about how when there's no problems, people love to create problems.
Yeah.
They just need something to fucking complain about all the time. So when something happens, they're like, I'm gonna keep putting out my opinions and complain and fight with this person because I have nothing the fuck else to fucking do. Besides, comment, go on Facebook, sit there and fucking read what everyone's saying and get super bent out of shape and just hide behind my keyboard and start yelling at everybody because I have nothing the fuck else to do because I want to be relevant and I want to be a victim and I want everybody to understand that I'm affected even though I'm fucking not.
Well, do you believe it's the masses? Like, because a lot of people you surround yourself with are obviously people like yourself. Do you think the majority of the population are the people that are against the masculinity and stuff?
73 million people voted for Donald Trump in this country. I think that there's this imminent fear of cancel culture that makes people either A, not express their voice at all, or B, express a voice contrary to what they truly believe because they feel as though society wants to see them say it that way. But when you look at sources where folks are allowed to be anonymous, it tells a different story, right? So I don't think that it's, and it's this weird thing, right? Because if it's not the masses, why is there this constant pressure? I think it's this example, to go back to what Jess said, of like, everybody feels like they need to. So Joe Rogan, he's one of my favorite comedians. He talks about if you get a room full of idiots, all it takes is that one idiot to be like, I know how to do it, and everybody's going to listen to him, right? So it's the one who speaks up. It's the ones with the loudest voices, no matter whether they're right or wrong. And I think what you see in this country specifically with the dynamic of whether you want to call it left versus right or, traditional masculine male versus whatever the fuck, there's one side that has a much louder voice and is much more whiny and complainy. And look, traditionally conservatives aren't that type of person. I mean, you see that more and more, like DC Drano and all these big accounts. But that's why it permeates Hollywood, it permeates media, all this stuff, because those are the ones with the loudest voices. Those are the ones, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what you see more of versus this is the collective mindset of the population.
And with that, with the masculinity piece, and I guess if you're saying right and left, people, you're simply asking and wanting people to just let you be who you are.
That's it.
Whatever they are and what they do, you don't care. Just don't
Live and let live. It's fucking simple.
Then that's it. And I think that's the big difference.
Yeah.
Let me have 2,000 testosterone levels. Like, if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just like we're letting you do whatever you want to do, and I don't comment on your shit. But it's okay for them to comment, like you said, because they're not a victim. And I think that's a key difference of what I think is people that are, A, comfortable, but B, I don't want to say good people, because I think there's good people that do voice their opinion. They just kind of get lost a little bit.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. But they voice their opinion just not as loudly.
Yeah. And you just want to, you're not telling anyone that males, that they have to be masculine.
No, absolutely not. Be yourself. If you feel compelled to have a beard and, deadlift and fucking whatever, like, do that. Do what makes you happy, Don't do it so I'll give you an example of this. I went to grad school at a very liberal, elite, whatever, snobby university. It was awful. UC Berkeley. So I'll fucking call them out. I went there and I thought that I had to be a certain way to fit in. I was very different from like your standard UC Berkeley person. And so I tried, man. It was like a fucking square peg in a round hole. Like I tried to wear a fucking cardigan and all this dumb fucking bullshit.
I couldn't even fucking imagine. I can't even imagine it.
Couldn't do it.
Exactly. And I tried so hard, but then I was like, you know what? Fuck this, man. Why am I trying to be this way for these people? You know? And I think that's what you see, you know? And all we're saying is like, whether it's you feel you need to express your true self as being a masculine man, or not that, or if you know, all men aren't, like there are always hierarchies, right? Just be yourself, that's it. But don't shame me for being myself, right? By me looking the way I look and living the way I live, it doesn't affect you at all. Just fucking live and let live.
So when I really did a lot of different things for this podcast, but what I did was ask 10 different women. This is what we're kind of getting into as to, we talk about masculinity, but being masculine doesn't say you're not a man. If you're not masculine, it doesn't make you not a man.
No.
This is how you guys choose to be. A lot of people think of masculinity as a physical thing.
Just like if you're not super feminine, it doesn't mean you're not a woman.
Correct. So with that, I asked 10 different women, all across the board.
She said penis earlier.
I said penis. I'm still not over it. Can we cut that out?
Did you guys ever play a penis game in
You
school?
could say
Jess
louder.
definitely lost.
I was like, can I
Barely
spell
said
it out?
Here.
I would like skip all the steps where it's like,
We can say
penis,
fuck.
penis.
You say penis.
I know. I can say fuck every other word. Okay,
Yeah.
can I say penis? I think I was trying not to say dick.
She's like, fuck, balls, penis.
Yeah.
What?
So I asked 10 different women, all across the spectrum of feminine women who have never played a sport in their life, choose to not lift weights, again, which is perfectly fine. If that's not something you want to do, that's fine.
Not only is it perfectly fine, like we fucking need that.
Yeah,
We
it's
need-
okay.
Yeah, all different types of people.
Yeah, that's how everything works. If we were all the same person, this would be the most boring fucking world, and how would you even find anybody? So,
10
women who did absolutely no sort of physical activity, very, we'll say, dainty or fragile, all the way up to women who powerlift, who do jujitsu, own their own jujitsu academy, very quote-unquote masculine or alpha
And
women.
you also talk to straight and...
I also talked to, I did a very good research study for this. We talked to straight women,
More than we did.
yes.
We just deadlifted.
Yeah. We're just like, we are masculinity. So.
We
Exactly.
just wore tight jean shorts.
Yeah.
It's so fucking old.
Yeah,
He actually wore jean shorts, you wore lifting shorts.
You wore performance attire.
Yeah.
You just
They
wore
stretch.
shorts.
I'm from South Carolina, and this is what we wear attire.
Yeah.
Alright, go on,
But
sorry.
I asked, it's okay. I asked straight women and gay women both of these questions just so we can get an array of different things, because even if you're not into men, you still know what a masculine man is. It's not just what you're attracted to.
Or I mean, women can be masculine.
100%.
Right. Like,
Hi.
masculinity is not like specific to
Hi.
gender.
So I asked, the initial question that I asked them was, when I ask you what masculinity means to you, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And they all asked me right off the bat, do you mean physically or personality characteristics? You tell me. What does it mean to you? So a lot of it first comes off as a physical thing, and then they divulge into personality-wise. And after that, I asked them, okay, with your definition of masculinity, when you're looking for a partner, do you need somebody who's masculine, or is that not a deal breaker to you? And it was very interesting to see from spectrum to spectrum what their answers were. So I wrote a little bit down. So for physical, when they think about masculine, strong, they have good posture, back and shoulders, a defined jaw, they get their hands dirty, they got rough hands, good beards, work boots,
If they got a good beard, how do you
tattoos.
know if they got a defined jaw?
I don't know, man, you get one or the other.
Yeah.
If you don't have a beard, you need a defined jaw to be masculine.
I don't have a good beard.
But those are just physical things that women, again, across the spectrum, think physical masculinity looks like. But if you go into characteristics, courage, strength, someone who keeps me safe, someone who can protect me, stable, confident, driven, assertive, not aggressive, resilient, emotionally resilient, owning the room. So even though you physically don't look like a man, even if you physically don't look masculine, I'm so sorry, you can still possess characteristics that make you masculine.
Right.
So when people talk about toxic masculinity, it's bullshit because you're seeing it as a very shallow, appearance-wise. You're judging a book by its cover.
Well,
so they
also
look at you very...
all the bad behavioral characteristics.
That's what you were talking about earlier, as to just because a man looks masculine does not make them a masculine man.
Right now I'm looking at your list. This Ashley has every single one of these on her.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of these no.
Yeah.
You know, so what does that say?
Yeah.
It says a lot, you know, that masculinity is a lot about your character and your personality.
Well, and I will say also, not once do you see a negative thing on that list. So I think in general, like most women view masculinity as a positive thing. So it's weird that there's this negative connotation to masculinity as being toxic.
So
most women see it as
correct.
Courage, strength.
So the negativity that came with the answers was, this is what I see as a masculine man. And they said in their descriptions, masculinity in their mind has changed as they got older. So when they were younger, they saw a masculine man as the douchey, loud, looks good, and that when they were in high school and college, that was masculine, was the physical part. But as you get older, you see that masculinity is much more than appearance-wise, that men who maybe not look like you guys are still very masculine men who can protect and provide and who have all these masculine characteristics.
A crazy piece about that is that I think until the last year and a half, I don't think I ever put an ounce of energy or effort or thought into, am I masculine?
No.
What is masculinity? I could not put a finger on it. I don't think I ever had.
I didn't think about it until people started telling me it was wrong.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
You're like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, I'm just being me. You know?
Why do you have a beard, dude?
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
just spit this out
to your
everywhere.
point,
Because
Jess,
he doesn't have a chiseled jaw, he needs a beard.
actually, there are pictures of that. So to your point, my grandfather, who, served in Vietnam, half his leg fucking blown off, like, works hard, but you look at him and he's just like a regular guy, he's not jacked or anything. But that is one of the most masculine fucking men I've ever met in my life. He's up with the sun. He works all day. He's retired and he still like goes and works on his land and fucking chops wood and like he's just like a different kind of man. Like that's masculinity. He doesn't have tattoos. He's not muscular. He's not, he's got a mustache and a goofy haircut, but he served his country. He's an upstanding citizen. He's a good man. He's a hard worker. He provided for his family. Like, that to me is a masculine man. You see him walk into a restaurant and you're not like, ooh, scary guy.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because this just popped in my head, right? So,
we don't accept other opinions.
I'll leave.
Cancel.
So, I would venture to argue that a lot of the people saying that masculinity is toxic is looking back at the 40s, the 50s, when the man...
I would agree with that.
The man went to work.
Slapped his wife around.
Women stayed home, cooked, kept the house clean, right?
Yeah.
Usually one person in the house worked. I would also argue or say that as that changed, the thought and the positivity around masculinity started to change as well. What would you say to people that say, well, masculinity came from the men going to work and the women staying home, and women should be able to do this in the equality, which we all agree that there is equality 100%, but I would venture to say that
I'm in my
was going to
speaking
change.
stance.
I know, I saw the hand go up.
I was like, well, then, I know this is supposed to be you guys, so I'm trying to keep it. But when we talking about this, I said, you cannot talk about the decline of masculinity without talking about the rise of feminism and about the equality of women. So we talk about men I want to reiterate this over and over again, that when you talk about being masculine or being a man, your two sole jobs is to protect and provide. It's been hardwired into your brains. Again, that's why you have the testosterone that you do. It's why you were created. You need to protect and to provide. Now, forward to 2019, 2020, even prior to that, when the huge feminism, I swear to God, some days I cannot talk, feminism movement happened. Now women want to be, well, we've been wanting to be equal and etc., but more of the workplace now, and I don't need a man, and I can go out and be the husband myself. I don't need a man. I can provide for myself. I can protect for myself. There's a huge shift. So now men who are looking for women, but now women don't need men. So then in men's mind, it's, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to protect and provide, but she don't need me. What's my role? And now there's this, she don't need me.
She's getting ghetto.
Yeah.
She don't need me. So now there's this whole switch of men being solidified where my job is to protect and provide, but now...
Let me ask you this then. You're one of the most badass, independent women that I've met. Strong, you do your own shit. You wanna marry a masculine man? Or do you want...
So, this is... Yes. So my opinion also...
That's why you're here, Jess.
Yeah, then you can leave it.
So my... so then you can leave. So my opinion also comes with the second part of the question that I asked these 10 different women. When I asked, does masculinity... I'm done speaking. I'm just going to take this off.
We know what you're saying.
I cannot fucking speak today.
Masculinity. Does
Masculinity matter when picking a partner. So the women who were less involved in, I'll say, physically active and demanding hobbies, said, it's nice, but it's not necessary. A lot of them have long-term boyfriends or fiancés or husbands who are not, quote-unquote, their physical definition of masculinity, but they always preface it with, but he can protect and provide for me. Because in comparison to them, they are more masculine. Okay? Now go to the opposite side of the spectrum with women who powerlift, do jujitsu, own their own businesses. And I ask them the same question, is masculinity a necessity for you and a partner? And all of their answers were abso-fucking-lutely yes. I need somebody more masculine than me. So everything is relative. So do I need somebody masculine? Yes. Are there masculine women who want a less masculine man? Sure. That's not me, and that's not the women who I asked who are more masculine, quote-unquote, alpha women. We want somebody who is more masculine than us. Because as a female, you still want to feel like a female. So you want your partner to be more masculine than you. So now it's just an extra level. So that's where guys like you come in, where it's, okay, you're masculine, you're more masculine than me, maybe like there are certain things that I'm better than you at or whatever, maybe I don't necessarily need you, but it's not a need at that point, it's we want somebody who can protect us better than we can protect us. So being a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, or all these other girls who I asked who were purple belts, brown belts, highly trained women, still want somebody masculine, even though we can do it ourselves, we still want somebody to have that can protect and provide for us, even though we can do it on our own. It's a want at that point.
I don't know about yours. I think that's awesome about your situation, but I love the fact that I know, Ashley, one other way is if I drop dead tomorrow, she doesn't need me to survive.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And that makes me want to be even better of a person, better of a man, to know that I could, if the instance, if she ever did. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes it more.
Well, I think for a guy who is a type A, alpha, hardworking, like, you need someone like that who isn't clingy, who can do their own thing, who's autonomous, and you come together over your shared interests and what you have together, but they're not, when you're doing your thing all day, like, when I was building my business, I was gone 20 hours a day, like, flat out gone 20 hours a day. And, if I had been with someone who couldn't handle that, and wouldn't survive on their own otherwise, like, that wouldn't have worked out, right? So I think that it's necessary in many ways for guys like us to be with someone who is independent, autonomous, strong on their own.
And it challenges you. It challenges me. It challenges me to be the best. I have to be the best version of myself. I have to be the best man I can be for her, or else that need and want to protect and provide is gone.
But I think that's also what proves as to like your guys' level of masculinity is there are so many men out there who the second you talk to them, it's, oh, I'm an alpha. No, the fuck you're not. The second that that's like a phrase out of somebody's mouth when you're first starting to like see them, like, oh, well, I'm an alpha, so I need so. You're like, okay, the fact that you actually had to tell me that you're an alpha, I need you to get the fuck away
if
from me.
If you ever have to try to be anything like that, or say that you're not.
But those are men
It's like saying you're humble.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're not.
I swear I'm humble, dude, but like, my Corvette, you know, like it's...
But that's the thing is that with this whole toxic masculinity thing, the one side of it is that men are, in their mind, are constantly striving to be masculine. So by saying that they're a type of way, even though they're really not, is the one part of this whole thing that throws me off as to, if you're not masculine and this isn't you, you don't have to preach that you are, because it comes off unnatural and it comes off annoying. So if you're actually approaching and it's always like, oh, I need an alpha female because I'm an alpha. And then that person actually starts dating an alpha female, and then they quickly are like, get the fuck out of here, guy.
That goes in with what he said about, you know, these guys, there is toxic masculinity, but you have to put a fake in front of the masculine. Because
people projecting masculinity.
And those guys trying to overcompensate for it, or create it, or be something they're not. Those are the guys that give the bad rap.
And those are the aggressive, abusive guys. That's where masculinity gets a bad rep. They're all over the place. They're in the South too, so don't even about the Northerners.
Don't get me wrong.
But that's where I think that's the root of the bad name of toxic masculinity comes from the men who are trying to compensate for the fact that they don't feel good enough or man enough, and they feel the need to, like in here it says, what?
What syndrome it is?
I'm not going to say it. I don't want to say it. No, I don't want to say it. I don't want to. He just whispered peace. It's a But no, I'm not saying it. But on the list, women said an assertive man, not an aggressive man, not an abusive, controlling man. That's not masculine. That's fucked up, and that's straight up abusive, and that's something that has something wrong with that.
Well, that's weakness.
Correct.
That's weakness and insecurity.
The fact of you needing to control people around you in an aggressive, listen to me, this is how things go way, it coincides with being a good leader. Are you a leader, or are you a boss? Or are you telling people what to do and getting mad at them and going about your day? Or are you actually leading by example and being in there with them and being like, okay, this went wrong, how do you fix it? That's what being a protector and a provider is you're looking out for the best interests of your family or your friends. You're taking away what's selfish of you and making sure that everybody around you is set. Yeah. That's a protector and a provider, not the motherfucker. So think about this. I knocked it. If there was let's say a shooter or somebody that came in, are you the man that is going to figure out how to take that person down, or are you the first guy at the fucking door leaving the females and the weaker people behind? Right. Are you a man, or are you pretending to be a man? Because you could be the loudest, most ripped guy in the room, but if shit goes wrong and you're the fucking fastest person out of here, you're not a fucking man.
The actions, gotta let actions speak.
Yeah, I agree. I had a thought based on what you were saying. Oh, so you bring up leader versus boss, and how they're intimately connected to being a real masculine man versus one who just projects it from insecurity. So an example of that I actually personally experienced, so when I owned my business, I had a buddy who, he was one of those, everybody knows these guys, like, tried a million things, was never successful, always trying to get rich quick shit, you know. And he was hanging out at my bar, and I was like, hold on a sec, I'll be right back. And I did a once over, wiped down tables, checks, you know, did all this shit. I came back and sat down. He was like, bro, he's like, man, if I owned this place, I wouldn't be doing that. That's for somebody else to do. And I'm like, and that's why you don't fucking own this place, you know?
I battle with that every day. I get a lot, why are you vacuuming the turf tub? Why are you cleaning the bathroom stall?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Because you lead from the
Because
front, you
this
set
is-
the example.
Yeah, and this is my spot. I hate asking people to do things. I genuinely hate it because A, I don't view myself ever as someone that is above anyone to ask. I hate it. I'd rather just do it myself. But I enjoy being in the trenches with people, you know, because when you get to that, it's a much better feeling than sitting up top and just, you know, telling people exactly what to do when you go through the experience. And a lot of that comes back with, I think a lot of it comes back to being comfortable.
Yeah, but what ultimately happens with that, or at least what happened with my business, and it was in some part the culture that we built, but if one of my employees saw me get up and start to wipe down things, oh shit, no, give me that, Dave, let me get that. You know, so that's what it's about. It's just setting the example. And so it got to where, you know, I'm not going to ask you to do it just like you said. I'm going to go do it. But if they saw me doing it, they were like, fuck, somebody fell off the job. And they would come and be like, hold on, let me get that. And that's leading from the front. That's not being a boss, like you said. And it ties into the same thing. It's like, are you the one who runs out the back, or are you the one who runs towards the shooter or tries to protect everyone? It's like, you know, it's very easy to tease those apart.
And when you are having a lot of experiences with dealing with the backlash of now being open, I don't want to say open.
I came out.
Yeah, you came out as a masculine man.
When you said that at the beginning,
I know, I said
Dave's
that
coming
right
out.
But it's funny, Candace Owens does a funny skit about that, where like she comes out to her parents as Republican or conservative.
That's funny shit.
And her mom's like, are you sure you're not just gay? Please just be gay instead.
I bet for a lot of people that's a really hard thing. People, I watched a podcast, someone said they would rather have their child come out gay or whatever rather than a jump sport.
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
when you had to do that, right, so you're dealing with a lot of backlash with it, with your wife and you know, your daughter, is there certain things now that you have to communicate with them about it and tell them why you're doing things and kind of have those conversations, or are they fully supportive of what you're doing?
Yeah, not really. Well, my daughter's kind of too young.
Yeah.
But, you know, my wife is like, it's always been where she doesn't give a shit. Like, she's very much her own person, kind of going back to like what we were saying before. And it's sort of like, if that's something you want to do it. You know, there's never been, it's never like, are you putting us in danger or any of that? Because it's like, she trusts that I've thought that through, you know?
And I think a lot of good things come out of it, right? So you've done this, there's a lot of negativity going around in society right now. But there is a group and there's a sense in the air of a bunch of different guys, even talking to Ian, and now talking to you, and you guys, you know, working for
Sean Whalen and Andy and, you know.
It's bringing people together, and you're finding out a lot of the masculine men are coming out of the closet, you know, and to talk about, to build new relationships, build a team, and build a society of like-minded people combating the cancel culture.
Yeah, it's almost like you didn't even think you needed to.
Dude, yes.
You know, and then it's like, oh shit, maybe I should talk about this, because I thought that, you know, I didn't think I needed to fucking come out as, guess what, like I'm a real man.
That's the new thing, yeah.
You've come out like 5 times
That's what we're
today.
putting on the sign, dude. That's what we're putting on the sign. I came out as a masculine.
Yeah, come out as masculine. But no, it's true, man, and it is good to see. You know, it's good to see like what Sean's doing with Lions Not Sheep, and you know, all the stuff that's going on right now. Obviously, Andy and what he's doing, and like there's some Ian. You know, I think Ian wants to do a lot of stuff with masculinity once he gets through all this bullshit. But yeah, and it's needed. I think it's really needed.
And you want to know what's crazy is that the younger generation people who are heavily on social media.
Yeah.
Anyone?
And, Aubrey Huff, I gotta mention him. His shit's good too.
I just started following him. Anyone that I mentioned that you were coming in here knew exactly who you were, exactly what you were known for now. Anyone over like a certain age. Sign guy.
Dude, I gotta tell you what happened to me in the airport. It was so weird.
Did someone come up to you about it?
Yeah, but they came up to me with their FaceTime on, with their friend, and they're like, my friend was, and like put it in front of my
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, but it was kind of weird. I was like, hey,
I had to like explain to some more people who don't have social media how you got this big of a following because of that, right?
Mine's not even like that big, you know. You know, I look at like guys like Ian, who's really cool. I mean, he's over 100,000 followers and shit. It's like I can't imagine the DMs and shit he must get, because he gets even more controversial than me.
He told me when I went down there, because you know, it would be, we would communicate about us setting it up to come down, and then it would be a little bit until he's like, I'm sorry, dude, I literally have hundreds of DMs every day, like, trying to, he's like, I need to hire
Well,
someone
that's
to
why
do this stuff.
he was just like, dude, don't DM me, just text me. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it, bro. I can't keep up with mine.
But when I had to explain to people like my father, why you were coming on to talk about that subject, not talk about training, they were like,
He
wait,
holds up
why?
signs saying obvious shit.
Why do you have to, what's the big deal about, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a big thing now.
Unfortunately, it has to be.
Which is crazy, but that shows how much social media has influence.
Yeah.
People that aren't on it all the time, so they don't see the problem, which I think is a big thing with society. I do feel for a lot of the things going on, these were problems that existed all the time.
Yeah, they always
They
have.
just weren't in your face 24/7.
Well, it's like what Gary Vee says, and you know, talking about social media, it hasn't changed us, it's just exposed us. You know, everybody has a megaphone now. Everybody can voice their opinion. You know, that shit's always been out there. It's just now it's front and center.
And it depends on what group of people gets a hold of that information and what they do with it.
Yeah.
Gary Vee openly commented out of who he voted for.
Yeah, I saw that.
If it was a disappointment.
Hey, I still love Gary Vee.
Um,
I still love The Rock too.
when other
Like he fucking cares.
when other people come out in the other side, they're canceled.
Absolutely.
Because the wrong crowd gets a hold of that content.
You know, that you're right, and that goes to another point that I try to talk about a lot, and that's like when you do get negative shit, when you get people, because I've dealt with this, man, a lot lately, and it's like when somebody comes onto your shit posting negative stuff, you gotta like really think about it and put yourself in their shoes and say like, have I ever done that? Have I ever just gone to someone's post and posted negative shit and just like, no, I haven't.
Nope.
Why? Because
Nope.
because I have a life and I have shit going on, and I'm, you know, so then I try to say, well, fuck, man, I almost feel bad for that person because they got nothing better to do, right, than to come on my shit and call me a, you know, whatever, all kinds of dumb shit they call me, but like, it's like, man, you got to put yourself in that mindset and not let it get to you.
Does it bother you some days? Do some things get to you different days that are certain types of comments?
The comments don't bother me. What bothers me more is like, I don't take any of it personally, period. I just don't, because fuck, I don't know these people, they don't know me. The comments themselves don't get to me personally, but what does get to me is just the general state of things. Like, you just kind of get depressed, man. Like, fuck, like what? More like for humanity, you know? Like, it doesn't bother me personally at all. Like, I don't give a fuck. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. So I don't ever look at it as like a personal attack.
I get so upset for humanity all the time. Like you said, I do. It's terrible. I, like you said, don't really care about people's feedback on my posts or anything like that. I just feel terrible that the world is just constantly feeling like it's spiraling now.
Yeah,
And
we talked about that.
yeah,
recently.
we had spoken about, and this meme keeps popping up into my head, that like strong men create good times create weak men create bad times, and this whole spiral in societies that happens over and over and
You
over
see
again.
that over and over, yeah, in civilizations.
It's not good. But that's why I feel bad for what's going on. It's like we're living in this world, and I don't have any kids yet, but for you guys having young daughters now, it's like what the future has to hold for everybody that's babies now. It's like, what the fuck is this world going to turn into? Are we all going to be robots? Are we all going to turn into like never being able to take a mask off again? Everything that's going on right now is fucking nuts to even think about. As the more and more generations, is it going to keep declining? Is there going to hit a point where shit has to
Yeah, I
fix?
feel that sometimes. I'm like, fuck, man, I brought a human into this world.
Yeah.
You know, so that does compel you to want to make more of a difference too.
Ashley was very, very scared, and I would say anxious about that during the last couple months of pregnancy. But it was the last couple months, just because it originally started with COVID, and it was kind of kickoff to everything. And she openly said something like that. Look at the world we're bringing Emerson into. And I was like, that's kind of why, big reason why I try to get on and just talk. A lot of people probably don't listen to me talk, but if I can affect a couple people and get some sort of a spot,
Yeah, which is one person, man. And when I think about that, I think about like raising my daughter in this participation trophy, you know, kind of instant gratification society. And I try to flip it on its head and amp myself up about the fact that I'm going to teach her another way. About like, my kid's going to kick your fucking kid's ass because she's not working for a participation trophy. She's working to win. And that really is kind of the same deal, man. It's like winning is frowned upon these days. You know, just like masculinity, just anything that, honestly, I've thought about it a lot, and I think it really boils down to like this problem that people who have this idealistic view of like some euphoria, the problem they have with hierarchies. But the problem with that is that hierarchies have to exist in any community because we are genetically diverse. There are strong men, there are weak men. There are strong women, there are weak women. There's smart women, there's dumb women. There's smart men, there's dumb men. And everybody plays a part. And there's always going to, I'm not going to have $200 billion like Jeff Bezos, and that's cool. I'm not going to be LeBron James, and that's cool, because I'm going to be what I can be the best. And that's okay, because hierarchies are okay, especially in a meritocracy. It's fair. But I think it goes down to this false idea that you can have equality of outcome, because you can't.
It's the battle between equal opportunity and equal outcome.
Exactly.
Two completely different things, and you can never.
And so they demonize winning. They demonize being the best, because, going back to Gary Vee again, an analogy he makes is like, if you want to have the tallest building in town, there's two ways to do it, right? Build a building taller than everybody's, or tear all the other fucking buildings down. And they're just trying to tear all the buildings down instead of actually going and building something for them fucking selves.
I love that. In kind of wrapping a little bit, with all of this stuff, a bigger platform than you had before, coming out.
Yeah.
What is something?
Jess said penis.
What's something that you hope to gain or provide for people from all of this, and you know, kind of maybe what's next in the works for you?
My hope is always, man, like to just kind of what we were talking about. If talking about this shit helps one, you know, insecure male teenager who was maybe dealing with the kind of bullshit I had to deal with growing up, you know, and he's afraid to embrace who he truly is, like, it's worth it. So honestly, I'm just going to keep speaking what I think to be true and hoping that it influences other people in a positive way and shows them that they don't have to kowtow to the fucking mob. You know, be your own person, embrace who you are. If that means being a fucking soy boy beta male, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's
not negative.
Yeah, be that. But if it means being a masculine man, fucking be that, because humanity needs all of it.
I love that.
I
Basically,
wanna-
be who the fuck
Just
you are.
be who you are naturally. Just embrace it.
Everybody needs somebody, so everybody keeps talking about this 10 women. You don't have to be a masculine man to find a wife or to find a partner, but everyone has to stop knocking down masculinity as toxic. Like we said before, the bad people of masculinity are not actually masculine. They're insecure and they're abusive, and that's where the negative comes from. So don't fall into this false image of all masculine-looking men are aggressive and abusive and controlling and things like that. What makes you masculine is you. So if you don't want to look like these guys, that's fucking but be a fucking man, be a good representation of your fucking gender, and stop calling other men out and trying to tell them that they shouldn't be who they are, because suppressing somebody at any level, suppressing somebody who is not masculine, suppressing a masculine man, nobody should be suppressed of who they are. And that's why cancel culture and talking about toxic masculinity itself is a fucking issue, because it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think that's such a
Mic drop.
That's such a good point, and that's where it's really good to have. It's refreshing to have Snoot in here and having a female say that it's okay to be a polar end of the spectrum. As long as you're showing respect and being a good person, it doesn't fucking matter.
Protect and provide. That's it.
And I think that's why I want to thank you for coming here,
Thanks
getting
for
a
having
good
me.
lifting and getting on here, because I think you have such a big platform, very influential, and I think you definitely are helping people. My thing, I just want to say keep doing you, because it's awesome to watch. It's motivational, inspirational for me, and even for someone like myself, I watch all your stuff that you do with your daughter. I see that, and I try to do those same things. So you're setting an example for a lot more people than I think you probably even know.
That means a lot, truly.
Of course, man. It's anything that we do and say, like we always say, transparency. It's fucking everything, and it's okay. I would say it's okay to have help and have people to look up to, no matter what type of person you are. But in rap, good luck on your flight. Hopefully the erectors don't fucking lock up too much after the beds.
Well, I gotta find my ID too. That's a whole other thing.
That'll be a battle in itself. So you're heading down tomorrow, going down South Jersey.
Yeah, I think, we'll go check out Ian's spot.
Nice. Nice little East Coast or Northeast weekend plan for you.
Definitely be an upper body day.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna try to go dance tonight at this wedding, and it's not gonna go too well.
Yeah.
But again, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
Safe trip. Snoop.
I'll be
Said
here.
peace.
Fucking
Snoop said
It's fucking right.